Well, we will go ahead and get started. My watch is saying 2:03, so I want it to be respectful of everyone's time, but I'll keep track of the waiting room here as well. But thank you guys again for coming this afternoon to our training, Maximizing Zoom for Recruiting. And I know, you know, during COVID, I was just talking to someone before we started this that we're all kind of guinea pigs in this area, right? We're trying to find new and innovative ways to recruit during this time. I talk with employers all the time, so I know there's a high demand still for skilled workers, but the quandary we're running into now is because of COVID, because of the lack of childcare, because of fear of the virus that we're not getting as many applicants as we would, let's say, back in the 2008 recession. So it's the perfect storm where we have jobs available, but the applicants might be thinner than what we would expect or hope for. So we wanted to provide this seminar, this training, Maximizing Zoom for Recruiting. And I just wanted to share as well that we were trying to, when we created this, we wanted to create it for employers with all different skill levels with Zoom, right? So there's some that may not have used Zoom before when it comes to anything, let alone recruiting. So there's some piece of that in here for you. And then you might have used Zoom for recruiting, for interviews, but you just want to know some more tips and tricks. We have some of that for you. So whether you're an advanced Zoom user, I hope there's some nuggets of wisdom for you. And whether you're brand new to Zoom, I hope you can learn and pick up on some things. So without further ado, let's get started. So I wanted to share. So presenting today, myself, my name is Eric Owsley. I'm the Regional Workforce Strategies Coordinator of Brighton Center at the Kentucky Career Center. So the Kentucky Career Center is comprised of 13 partner agencies. Many people think Kentucky Career Center is just one organization, and many people think Kentucky Career Center as the unemployment office. And I just want to let you guys know we're a lot more than the unemployment office. That is a part of it. The unemployment office is a Kentucky Career Center partner, but they're just one of the 13. So we have services for job seekers, helping them find a job. We have classes for resume, for job search, for all different sorts of things to prepare job seekers for that job. But then me and my team, I lead the business services team at Kentucky Career Center. And we provide services for employers, you guys, right? So we can help post your jobs. We have job fairs every year, hiring events, and particularly now in COVID, we help employers navigate to unemployment resources. I have a contact down in central office in Frankfurt that helps me resolve employers' unemployment issues. And we're trying to do virtual formats for employers to help during this recruiting. Hence this video today, this webinar. So treat us as a resource. Treat us as a free resource for you to help with recruiting, talent acquisition, retention services. We're there for you. So on today's agenda, I wanted to kind of give a brief overview of Zoom for those who haven't used it, but then we're going to go into scheduling hiring events, interviews. I have several screenshots, and then a few different hiring event formats that we've tried in the past, or in the present, I should say. And then I want to talk about what we did in July for our virtual job fair. All we did was use Zoom, and it was actually really effective. And there will be time for questions at the very end. Right now, since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat feature. So if at the very end there'll be time for questions, you can either unmute yourself or you can put something in the chat. Just a few housekeeping rules. if you can stay muted, and if you can have your camera off right now, that'll eliminate distractions for me. And then at the very end, I'll stop sharing my screen, and then we can unmute ourselves, show ourselves, and kind of have dialogue, because there might be some things that you guys are doing that we're unfamiliar with when it comes to recruiting. So I don't work for Zoom. I'm not an expert at all things Zoom and how we can use the platform. But I just wanted to share with you guys, as we have been doing some hiring events for different organizations. Okay, so there might be some in the room today that are brand new to Zoom, and that's okay. So we wanted you here. What I would say if you're completely new to Zoom is I would check out Zoom's website at support.zoom.us. They have a whole bunch of different training videos. And I actually I'll stop sharing just so I can walk you through some of these videos, because I think they're really helpful. And hopefully you guys can see my screen here. So this is, like I said, support.zoom.us, the help section. So under training, you can find live training webinars. You can find Zoom video tutorials, watch recorded training sessions, meeting and webinar best practices and resources, Zoom online event consulting services. But then there's also, like, if you click on this getting started, there's some more resources for you. So, you know, if you're on a desktop, if you're mobile on your phone, there's frequently asked questions. There's guides for installation, and also there's some troubleshooting articles. So if you're brand new to Zoom, my first advice would be to go on to support.zoom.us. But also what I want to share, again, as a free resource for employers, we want to help you. We want to help you get used to Zoom technology. So please reach out to myself. You saw my email on the last slide, and I'll put it in the chat as well. Email myself or any one of our business service reps, and we can, we'll be more than happy to have a one-on-one with you and just kind of brainstorm with you on how you think you can use Zoom the best to maximize it for recruiting. I just also wanted to give a shout out to my business service rep team. They're incredible. We have a business service rep for each sector, right? So healthcare, business, IT, finance, construction and trades, manufacturing, transportation, distribution, the in-demand sectors in our region. And Jill Wayman, she actually helped me put this presentation together. She was going to be here today to present, but she had something else going on. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my team. So there's actually different Zoom plans. Everyone has access to the basic plan, so it's free. And you can actually do one-on-one meetings with the basic plan. So if you're scheduling interviews with your applicants, and if you have the free Zoom basic plan, no problem. What I would recommend is just doing the one-on-one, because if you have 3 or more people in a Zoom room, you're limited to 40 minutes. And that could get kind of awkward, right? If you're right in the middle of an interview and your time is up and you see the 9 minutes left, and you know, it can just get kind of awkward and rushed. So really putting it to that one-on-one use. However, the pro and business versions we recommend, because there's different features that we'll go over today that we've been using for recruiting, and they've worked out really well so far. So we have 10 paid business Zoom accounts at our center. I think pro accounts as well will get you pretty much the same as the business accounts. The business one might be more, as you see there, the pro is great for small teams. Business might be more, if you're a mid-level company, you might want to look at the business. And then there's an enterprise account for large enterprise ready. So go over the details, go to Zoom, you'll see it mapped out all there. Like I said, I don't work for Zoom, so I don't have all the details of every plan. but I just wanted to share the paid Zoom accounts to have some more features that we've been using that's been helpful. So I wanted to kind of go over scheduling your hiring event. And in this next section, again, this is more for the beginner Zoom user. So for those of you who are more advanced, I hope you get something out of this section. But you know, the ones that have not used Zoom or are brand new to Zoom, I think this would be really, really helpful for you. So I took screenshots, right? So this is my Zoom account. You'll see me right there. So this is all through that zoom.us/profile. So I'm going to zoom.us, right? I created my account. So you'll see my user type as license. So this is not a free account. So if I want to go into meetings, right? So I'm scheduling an interview with an applicant. I'm scheduling a hiring event. So I'm going to go into meetings, highlighted right there on the left. And then you'll see the meetings options, right? So you'll see a few of my meetings right there that's already, you know, in the future. But if you click schedule a new meeting, you'll get to this dialog box. So you can do any topic you want here, of course, you know, interview with John Smith, right? So you put that as the topic. You decide when, you know, what time, what date, what's the duration. Again, you'll notice with the free account, you'll see kind of like a notification that says it'll end after 40 minutes if there's, you know, 3 or more participants. You can make this a recurring meeting if you want. See, with my account, there's this registration, and we'll actually go in detail on that in a minute, but you can require it to be a registered meeting. And then there's a meeting ID, which you can either do a generate automatically or a personal meeting ID. The personal meeting ID is good for static meetings, right? So like you have the same meeting once a week or once a month, and you use the same ID for every single one of those meetings. The generate automatically is better for security purposes because it's a brand new meeting ID every single time you create the meeting. So then there's a few other features down below that I didn't have a screenshot for. So you can decide, you know, audio options. Usually I choose, you know, both for audio options. And then there's a passcode or waiting room. So depending on the level of security that you want, most of the time for things such as the hiring events, I like to choose waiting room for those. Just because if you put in a passcode, that's one more step that the applicant would have to do. I know it's a very small thing, but I like to try to eliminate as many little steps as possible to get them to the hiring event. Once you save your meeting, so you'll see all your meeting details here, right? So you can either copy your invitation by Outlook. I circled that there. Or I highlighted this here, the copy invitation. So once you do copy invitation, you can just copy and email your applicants the Zoom information of your interview or hiring event. Or you can do it through the Outlook calendar. It opens up Outlook, and then from Outlook, you can forward it to as many people as possible to get them going. So there's kind of 2 ways to get your interview, your hiring event out there to people. So that brings me to my next section of registration. So the business and pro Zoom accounts have the registration feature. We highly recommend this because what it'll do is get a head count of your attendees. So you'll get to kind of follow how many people are registering for this virtual event, and you'll get to see, you know, okay, I have 58, I have 100. So you get a good idea of who's going to be at your event. So under the registration feature, which I'll share screenshots in a second, you can customize what questions you ask, right? So the most basic form would be first name, last name, email, right? But you can customize that to your liking. And then you can change the email contact and you can change the confirmation email script. So we've done it that way where we've used the registration feature in Zoom, but we also have done more of a simple RSVP approach. So on our marketing materials, our flyers, for instance, we would say, please RSVP to Eric Owsley with my email. And then people would email me, and then I would just copy invitation and give them the Zoom details. So however you want to do that using the registration feature, or you can just do a simple RSVP approach. Both works just fine. But for the registration, I already went over this with, so when you're creating your meeting, under registration, you want to check required. And what that'll do is get you to this further registration details. So you'll see the number of registrants there. Like I was sharing, you know, you can kind of see the ticker go up, right? Like, oh, okay, 68 people are registered for this so far, and you get to kind of keep your eyes on it. And then to kind of go into further options, this registration options, if you click on edit, it'll give you some further registration options. So with approvals, you can automatically approve. So they'll just automatically receive information on how to join the meeting in that confirmation email. Or you can manually approve. So before they register 100%, they'll have to go through the organizer. So the organizer must approve those. So that's a little bit more work on the organizer, but just in case if you want that extra control with that registration process, there's options here for notification. And then for other options, you know, you can close the registration after the event date. You can allow attendees to join from multiple devices. Highly recommend that approach. And, you know, show social share buttons on registration page. So then we get into the questions. And like I said, you can make this as simple as possible. So what I would recommend the registration fields be is first name, last name, email address, and then there's also a confirm email address. So for we did a virtual veterans job fair. We added a question: Are you a vet? Are you a veteran? So that just gives us a little bit more data on what veterans are attending this event. So you can choose whatever questions you want on there, but just know that the more questions you ask, the more of, I don't want to use the word barrier there is, but just the more steps that they have to go through. So it might be best to keep it as simple as possible. Then you go into email settings, right? So for the email settings, you can choose the email contact. So right now it's me. If you have a specific recruiter that you want the contact to be, you can choose them. And then the confirmation email to registrants. So you can go to edit on here. I don't have a screenshot for this, but you can go to edit and it'll have the actual message that it'll send your registrants. You know, thank you for registering for this event. Here's the Zoom details. So you can put whatever you want on that subject body. What I do is go to this send me a preview email, and I just kind of look to see how it reads, if it's good, and then I will adjust accordingly. And you can make these confirmation emails as pretty as you want with the branding feature right here. So if you click on branding, you can actually upload a JPEG or a PNG file to put as kind of like a banner for your confirmation email or for your registration event. And, that might just attract more people to the, things that attract to the eye are always good with marketing. And then live streaming, you can actually live stream your event depending on what your event is. If it's, of course, if it's a personal interview, you wouldn't want to do that. But if you want to do some sort of information session to blast it out to the multitudes, maybe I would suggest doing the live stream, and that'll connect with Facebook Live. We actually have Facebook Live events every Thursday at 9:30 with employers. If you are interested in doing something like that, we'd be happy to have you on board for that. We schedule those pretty far out. So right now, I believe we're on October with scheduling. But just reach out to us if you have any additional questions on what that Facebook Live event looks like. And that goes for any of our, if you want us to help you with a Zoom hiring event, we'd be happy to help as much as possible, host one, create one for you. We want to be that free resource for you. I want to go over a little bit some different hiring event formats. I want to just kind of brainstorm with you on this because I think there's multiple ways to use Zoom for these things. And I want to say too, when thinking about platforms, back when all this first started, like in the springtime, we were looking at paying vendors to provide a virtual platform for us, and there's a lot of great things out there, a lot of sophisticated technology out there with automated processes. Zoom has a lot of great features. So if you're looking at recruiting, if you're looking at virtual platforms with low cost, I would highly recommend doing a paid Zoom account because it's still relatively inexpensive when you think of the other virtual platforms that are out there. But there's three main formats that you can try, right? So there's the information session presentation. We actually just did this with an employer earlier this week where we invite people to a Zoom hiring event. So we did the RSVP, we did the registration, and on the day of the event, the recruiter actually presents their screen, and they do like a information session, right? So they present their job opportunities, anything they want. You can share a video, just make sure your computer sound is on, and you can do your presentation. At the very end of that, there can be a time for question and answer session, either using the chat or applicants can just unmute themselves like we'll do later this afternoon, and then ask questions. And for this particular event, we did follow-up tours. So several people got to schedule follow-up group tours at the facility for kind of like their second interview for those positions. So just making sure that at the very end, create some sort of actionable step, right? So maybe that's an interview on the spot, right? Or maybe that's, okay, I want to make sure we get everyone who wants to take a tour to your facility, or a second interview, so to speak. I'll scheduling it with them. Another option you can use Zoom for is open interviews, or what I call the time slots format. So you can have your hiring event from 1 to 5, right? But then you'll have people RSVP to your event, and then you'll go through the RSVP list, and then you'd actually create time slots, right? So 1 to 1:15, 1:15 to 1:30, etc. And I forgot to mention, with that registration option in Zoom, you can actually export a spreadsheet of all of your applicants. So for the job fair, I already had a spreadsheet of all my applicants with all of the emails, and I was able to just email everyone 2 days before the event, 1 day before the event. Okay, this is what you need to know. This is what you need to do. So make sure you use that exported spreadsheet to your advantage with that. But you can assign people to different time slots with this open interviews approach. And then I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about this breakout rooms feature. And again, this is for pro Zoom accounts and business Zoom accounts and enterprise. So the breakout rooms feature. So let's say you're talking, right? You're talking with an employer, or I'm sorry, an applicant, and you want to set it up in a way where there's a Zoom meeting room, and in that room there's going to be someone on your staff that does kind of pre-screening questions, right? So let's say I'm St. Elizabeth, right? And there's several different roles within St. Elizabeth, and there's several different recruiters recruiting for those positions. So first there'll be a pre-screening room, and then there's going to be these breakout rooms, and the main room person will send over to those specific breakout rooms. So you see this screenshot here. There's an arrow pointing to this feature right down here, and it's breakout rooms. Once you click that, you will have an option to create rooms. So there's two ways to create breakout rooms. So there's this way, when you're right there in the Zoom meeting, you go to breakout rooms and then you click create rooms, and then there's an option of creating different rooms. So you can create the rooms, assign people to the rooms, and then you can rename the rooms to what you want. The other way to create breakout rooms is when you're scheduling the meeting, when you're creating your meeting, the breakout rooms features an option, and you can go ahead and create your breakout rooms when you're setting up your meeting. So there's two ways of doing that. Okay, so for this example, for St. Elizabeth, let's say I want to have 3 breakout rooms. So St. Elizabeth RNs, St. Elizabeth Pharmacy Tech, and then St. Elizabeth Patient Transport. Those are the roles that we're hiring for, right? So your first room will be the pre-screener. And then if they mention they're interested in a patient transport position, let's say this Kim Spreader who's on our team, she's interested in the patient transport. So then I would assign Kim Spreader to the patient transport room. I would go to open all rooms right there. And then Kim will have an option to leave this room and go to this breakout room. Then she can talk to the recruiter from patient transport. So it'll be kind of like a brand new Zoom meeting in the breakout room. They're talking to the recruiter, and then the applicant can press leave room and go back to this main meeting. And then if we want, we can assign anybody to any room. So Jill Wayman right here expresses interest of the RN, and I pre-screen her. She qualifies for RN, so I assign her to the RN room. And then there's pharmacy tech. So I would also recommend too assigning one at a time if you're going to use the breakout rooms. You know, during our job fair, we had a little bit of a bottleneck effect where there were just so many people were trying to fix that bottleneck. But I think it works best for the recruiters if you just send one at a time, and then more people can hang out at the Zoom meeting. But then there'll just be one person at a time on the breakout rooms. So the breakout rooms, I will say, it might sound complicated if you're not used to it, but it's actually very easy to use. So we were able to train employers on this. We were able to train staff using this. And then even the job seekers that came, the way we explained it in our video, it was just a little bit as seamless as a process as could be for a first time ever job fair. So that brings me to my next one. So I want to talk about what we did for our virtual job fair, and maybe you can do something similar in your organizations. So for the virtual job fair, right? So it was on July 23rd, and it was the very first one in the state of Kentucky as far as the Kentucky Career Center organizations in Kentucky. So we used 10 paid Zoom accounts at the same time. So all of these meetings were going on at the same time. We had 20 employers for this event, and we broke them out into different sectors, right? So we had the high demand sectors: healthcare, transportation, logistics, construction and trades, business, IT, finance, advanced manufacturing. And we had staff run the main rooms on those. And then we had breakout rooms to all the different employers. So we were able to maximize our 10 Zoom accounts and really turned it into 20 different rooms, so to speak. So for that event, we had 158 people registered. So my brainstorm question is, and how could maybe your organization use a format like this? So we had a web page specifically designed for the job fair. So as you see here, we had a virtual job fair web page. I called it the landing page because this is the place where everyone was going to land, right? So we created that registration. As you saw, there was 158 registered. And then on the confirmation email, we put this web page, like, please visit this web page on the day of the event. And then so people could see the confirmation email on July 23rd. They go to the event, they go to the web page. We had a video right at the front and center of how does this all work. So this is just an embedded PowerPoint of me talking about how this whole process works. I just want to say too, I want to give a shout out to our team at the Area Development District. They created this web page for us. I think this is a WordPress, something like free. So there's a web design out there like WordPress that you can create a web page. So we just put our graphics on it, little trinkets. So this was, as you scroll down, this is what the web page looked like, right? So we actually had this welcome center. So the welcome center was the Zoom account that we used for the registration. So that was my account. So people visited this account. Some of them, this was their first stop. They just went straight to my account, and I I shared with them how to get to the web page. Excuse me. And then others went straight to the web page because they saw my confirmation email with the web page on it, and they went straight here. But these blue icons represent the different Zoom rooms, right? So we had 8 Zoom rooms, and each one represented a sector of different employers, right? So let's say this one, for instance, with the arrow, this was advanced manufacturing, right? So all the employers in this one are manufacturing employers. So the job seekers would hover over that, and they'd see this advanced manufacturing, click here to speak with local employers. Once they click there, it'll take them to the Zoom room of advanced manufacturing. We had a staff member running that advanced manufacturing room. And like I said before, the different manufacturing employers represented the breakout rooms. So our staff member just asked, hey, which employer would you like to visit? And they shared with them what employer, and then we assigned them to that breakout room. And then the employer was able to recruit, pre-screen, have follow-up with them. So that's how we did the virtual job fair, and that's how we're using Zoom as a virtual process. So we have the Zoom hiring events, we have the Facebook Live, and then we have the bigger job fair events. So that's what we've done. And right now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would love to have a little bit of a question answer session if you want to put something on the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and feel free to do so. There, I see some questions on the chat already. Okay, so a few people are joining us. Thank you guys for joining. Okay, so question for the hiring event, do we need to have our own Zoom account? So that's a great question, Jennifer. And the answer is no. So if you want us to do a Zoom hiring event for you, we can create that ourselves with our Zoom account. And then you would just work with us from start to finish. And like we would be the host of the Zoom account, and then you would come into the meeting like 15 minutes before the event, and the event would get started, and then we go from there. So that's a great question. Okay, so Tori's asking, how does it work when you have a ton of people in the initial Zoom room with everyone talking at once? Tori, that's a great question, and that we did run into a little bit of trouble with that. So in the hiring event, we did the job fair. We tried to monitor it as close as possible. We muted participants upon entry to eliminate the background noises, and then we had our staff just go continually like a broken record, kind of go over the rules and say, okay, hey, introducing, oh, hey, we have someone new, Tori. Well, welcome to our Zoom meeting. And then the chat room was used a lot to help direct traffic. And then we talked with the employers kind of on the back end as well, saying, okay, so I'm going to send so-and-so to you. So there's just a lot of communication. We were all guinea pigs for it. So that's still a work in progress. But great question. And then I also want to share for the information session hiring event we did earlier this week. So participants came muted, and then once it became time for the hiring event, the recruiter shared their screen. I introduced them; they shared their screen. So everyone was quiet, so they were muted. We went over the housekeeping rules. At the very end, there'll be a question and answer session. And then at the very end of the presentation, I helped monitor the chat. Some people threw up questions on the chat, and I got those. And then some people shared their questions unmuted, and we just made sure to get with everyone. And then some people use like the hand raising, and we made sure to get there. Hey, Tori, can you unmute yourself? I just want to make sure I understand your question.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so I was curious. I had done a concept similar to kind of the time slot thing. I had people apply to kind of an application through our applicant tracking system that listed out as a question, what time slot would you want? So then I had to basically go through and individually send out to people a different Zoom meeting. But I was wondering if there's any functionality within Zoom so that you don't have to sit there and send individual meetings out to all the people, because it kind of got to be a lot to send those individual ones out. So I was curious if you knew about that maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the most I explored with something like that would be kind of, we talked about the time slot feature using that registration. That's the best way I can think around that, to where you have like multiple people register for a 1 to 5 event, and then you get that exported Excel spreadsheet with everyone's emails on one list. And then you can kind of have control and choose, depending on how many people, choose what time slots they are. But yeah, I haven't explored Zoom close enough to figure out something like that. That sounds kind of something a little bit more advanced, maybe.
I appreciate it though. And then I have one more question since I'm unmuted anyway. When you were talking about having people in that main like Zoom room and then sending them into the breakout rooms.
Right.
So you obviously, if you're the one kind of sending the people into the breakout rooms, you kind of need to know when the recruiter in that other room is done with that person. Other than them leaving and coming back into the main room, is there any notification that you see as the facilitator to tell that they're gone from the meeting overall or gone from that room?
There's not, and that's the only thing with breakout rooms where I wish there was kind of more control from the organizer. It's very, it's like the job seeker kind of has all the control, right? So they choose, once they're in that room, they have to choose to leave the meeting. There is an option for the organizer to broadcast any message. So the organizer of that main room could say something like, "Okay, recruiters, 5 minutes, until I send the next person in." And every recruiter from all breakout rooms would see that message. Like, "Oh shoot, we got to wrap up. The next person is coming." That's the only way I know how to do that.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else have any questions? I hope this presentation was helpful. Like I said, I know there might be some of you who are new to Zoom. There might be some more advanced with Zoom. But I hope each one of you learned at least one nugget of wisdom today. What I'll do is everybody who RSVP'd, I'll send out these PowerPoint slides. And as you can see, this is also being recorded. So where this is going to be recorded is our webpage, nkcareercenter.org. That's nkcareercenter.org. And then you go to the resources tab and you'll see a whole bunch of webinars available. I shouldn't say a whole bunch, a few webinars available. And then you'll see this Maximizing Zoom for Recruitment. So let me know if you have questions on that. Once I email you, if you can email me back, and I can send you that as well. But please reach out to me with questions. If you want to set up a Zoom hiring event with us, we'd be more than happy to do that. If you want to set up a Facebook Live, we'd be more than happy to do that. I'll tell you what, those Facebook Lives are getting a lot of views because they stay on our page. So not only is it live, but then it's published and just stays on our page. So we've been getting like thousands of views on that. So if you're thinking like multitudes of people, that might be a good route. Yes, Tori, that's a great point. Yeah, I'll go ahead and send you as well the video, the PowerPoint we did for the job seekers on the landing page as well. So we're actually creating we have another job fair coming up, the Healthcare Career Fair. Some of you actually might be a part of that. And if you are, thank you so much. But that's coming up September 24th. So I actually have to redo that video entirely to make it for the Healthcare Fair as well. Yeah, I'll send that to you, Tori, and anyone else who wants it. So awesome. Well, that's all I had. If anyone else had any questions, please feel free to let me know. But other than that, I appreciate you guys coming out today, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. So take care. Thank you, guys.